Hello, YouTube. It's been a moment since I've been around. Don't expect me to see me again anytime soon, but I wanted to come back for this brief moment to talk about a list of things. Um, I've tried recording a vlog about this before, but I ultimately scrapped it. I'll probably put it at the end of this one, wherein I analyze some literature, a book. Wow, crazy, but and then relate it to current events. But I wanted to take this video to talk about the internet, but not just the internet. Um, the internet as it relates to desensitization to violence, the internet as it relates to extremism, but moreover, the internet in its use today as it relates to um, the concept of being a normie, the concept of counterculture, all of these things. Um, because in light of the recent horrific assassination of a political commentator in the U.S., I've seen a lot of people commentate on how upsetting it is that there is this persistent pattern of dehumanization by certain radical political actors that have emerged in the wake of the polarization, the extensive polarization that exists in my country. And while it is true that it is quite concerning and quite upsetting that there are people that are willing to dehumanize a father of two children, an innocent person who was merely exercising his free speech rights, um, while of course it is very concerning that those people have those sentiments, that those sentiments are being expressed, um, I don't think the fact that they're saying them is necessarily the point here. I think the fact that you're reading them in the first place is more concerning than the fact that there are people out there saying horrible things. Because there have always been people that have thought horrible things. Perhaps there are more people now that think them than before. I haven't seen like a peer reviewed study on that that's really gone into it, into polarization from over the last several decades. Maybe it exists. Maybe it's worse now. Maybe it's not. There, there are a lot of people that say that it's worse now. It's a common sentiment, but I am 23 years old. Like, I was not alive in the past, and so I couldn't tell you if it was any better back then. And even if I was alive in the past, I would not be able to tell you accurately because I have not sat down and done an extensive review of the average sentiment and the way that things were. Of course, there are some indicators that you can look at, like overall respect for institutions and things like that. You can develop like a general sense of how it was, but as far as I know, there has not been in an extensive review of how um, people's perceptions of this kind of political violence has changed. And so maybe it was better in the past, maybe it's worse now, but the reality is we're in the moment that we're in now, and you don't necessarily have to listen to those people. I mean, look at the approach that I've taken with this YouTube channel, right? I have found myself generally dissatisfied with the platform of YouTube. I have found myself disagreeing with many of the policies therein. I have found myself at odds with the extent to which the internet has become negative, the extent to which bullying and judgment of people's immutable characteristics and people's differing political views, the extent to which um, bullying people for those things has become normalized. I don't like it, and so I just don't use the platform, right? You know, I have a specialized YouTube account where I consume media in my target languages. That's it. Which are going very well, by the way, because that's all I spend my time on. Um, and so I am just not in the world that everybody else is in. I'm not interacting with people on the internet all the time. I'm not on social media, any social media. I haven't been on Discord for months. I am not, I'm not engaging in the spectacle. I'm not checking the news all the time. I'm not posting on image boards and all this stuff. I'm just in my own world, and I feel content there. When I'm not in my own world, I am interacting with my family. I'm doing things, um, and I think for for as much talk as there is nowadays about how the internet has changed and about how there are these systemic problems with how people use the internet, um, there is not enough talk about the the rebellious nature of just not engaging, with what everybody else is doing. If all of your classmates are on TikTok and you don't use TikTok, you're not part of the same system as them. If all of your classmates are spending the vast majority of time in their room or in their house and you're outside, you're not participating in the same system as them. I've never really known what Denpa is, this genre of video that people claim that me and my friend No Thank You are a part of. I've never really known what it is. It seems like many people have many highly differing opinions about it, but whatever it is, I don't even know if I would be considered a part of it, right? Because I don't spend all day, on the internet consuming media. To the extent that I consume media, it is to facilitate the acquisition of vocabulary and grammar structures in languages that I'm learning, which I'm, spending the entirety of my time on, more or less. Um, Oscillating from high intensity studying to, more pure input. Like recently, I watched the entirety of the series Death Note over the course of 3 days in the Latin American Spanish dub, and I understood every word. There was like one word that I didn't know, and I understood it from context, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it because of that. It's the word for bearable, which is llevadero, which is very good. I'm very glad that I learned that word. But I understood every word in the show. I watched it and I forgot that I was watching something that wasn't in English, um, and it was awesome, right? If you're just sitting there mindlessly consuming media that you're inevitably going to forget, and it's not in service of a greater goal or a greater aspiration, what's the point, right? I don't know. There's sort of this like romanticization of just like spending your time um, in a non-memorable way that I can't really get behind. You know, don't get me wrong, I like art and media as much as the next guy, but it doesn't feel meaningful if I'm not doing it in service of something, right? The it feels justifiable. My enjoyment of it feels justifiable if I understand that, okay, this is helping my language acquisition goals. I'm not thinking in English right now. I'm not consuming any English right now. Um, but I do think that there's this bizarre culture that exists, um, of like just sitting inside, and it also happens to be the culture that most people are in nowadays, and that definitely is different. That is verifiably different. Um, And so if you want to be countercultural, or if you want to be, you know, rebellious in some way, why not? You know, go join a food drive. Why not go mow the lawn for somebody? Why not, you know, get outside and do something? You know, the fact that popular memes are actively being repeated, regurgitated by uh, boomer public figures, I mean, this is a deeply disgusting thing. And it goes to show the point that we're in now, where the internet, which was once a fun place for weird people on the fringes of society, has converted into this deeply unhealthy place that the majority of people happen to find themselves in, um, you know, arguably or possibly having, you know, quite a terrible impact on society all at the same time. I mean, it's quite possible that humans were not designed to see such a steady stream of negativity drip fed to them, um, by the algorithm. Steady stream drip fed to them. That's a contradictory statement. What am I saying? You can't drip feed something in a steady stream. Uh, Forgive me, I literally hit my head yesterday, so I'm not thinking as straight as I could. But yeah, I don't know. Um, I don't know. It's a bizarre world out there, and ultimately, I have little desire to participate in it as it exists today. Um, but there's an easy way for me to not have to participate, which is simply by not participating in the major social media sites. You know, if I'm not on the social media sites, if I'm not interacting with people who are totally consumed by them, and I'm just doing my own thing, then I don't really have to you know, look at any of this. Um, and that's my message with this video, is you don't have to either. You know, if you don't like social media, you don't have to use it. You can just get rid of it. If you don't like, um, your relationship to the internet, you can just change it. You know, if you feel like there is a dangerous pattern that's occurring in society today, you can be part of the change. You can be someone who says, no, I'm not going to stand for desensitization. I'm going to have empathy. No, I'm not going to stand for polarization. I'm going to have conversations. No, I'm not going to be someone who is sitting here filled with negativity. Of course, you know, a certain level of negativity is positive, because it's, you know, it means you're assessing the world objectively and trying to change it. Uh, but you know, so I'm not advocating for toxic positivity in this video by any means. Um, but the negativity that's like out of this world, like you're literally just, okay, every minute of every day is just, um, these people are evil, these people are want to kill you, this is a war, blah blah blah. It's not a fucking war, man. It's, you are not some crusader who's, I don't even know. I don't know what these people think because I don't read the internet. Um, it like it just take a step away. Do your own thing. Find something that's meaningful to you, and focus on that. You know, if if you want to change society so badly, focus on changing it at the individual level by making someone's life better, and then start having conversations about broader systemic change and participate peacefully. That's ultimately my philosophy. But I happen to be someone that's quite fond of the status quo, in the sense that the status quo is what allows me to sit around studying as often as I do, which is all I want to do. You know, I don't, this is the thing, right? Is like, how could someone like me be so opposed to the world when I happen to be enjoying the world as it is today? when the world as it is today happens to be the place that I um, that has given me the tools to study all the time, to continue progressing in my goals and things like this. Um, and so I recognize that my perspective is quite different from a lot of people's out there at this point. And when I try to describe it, some people even find it unimaginable. How are you not mad all the time? How are you not depressed and unhappy? Well, because I wake up and first thing in the morning, I get to work. And then after a little bit of work, I go eat something, I have a very healthy meal, and then I get back to work. And then I spend time with my family. And then I get a little exercise, and then I work more. And I have entertainment to decompress or to take the edge off, but it's entertainment that relates to my work. It's input. And so I'm never not working in some sense or another. And that keeps me grounded. It it helps me feel like I have a constant sense of progress, like I'm constantly leveling up, like I'm constantly moving up in the world, and like my life is on the right footing. And I think for a lot of people that's missing. They don't have a sense of progression because they're literally just looking at mindless content that they're bound to forget all day. Content that is designed to get you to click on it because it's designed to evoke anger and sadness from you. And if you're not skeptical of the propaganda apparatus that exists therein, um, you can wind up in trouble. You can really wind up in trouble. And um, I find myself more and more skeptical of this platform and of the broader media ecosystem that it exists in. I did a video on my blog about precisely this, about how I don't have the desire really to participate in YouTube because of um, the impact that I feel this platform has on society. And ultimately, it's like I've said on this channel many times, we have to love each other. Um, there are more things that bring us together that we have in common than there are things that set us apart. But at the same time, I am an individualist, right? I am a big fan of the things that set us apart. I think those should be celebrated as well. In this case, I find individuality in the fact that I am not subsumed by the same system of control that so many people find themselves in. That being the algorithm, uh, the, uh, the the radicalization machine that tech companies continuously make money off of. Um, and so at the end of the day, that's my perspective. I think there's something quite dangerous happening in the world today, inside of people's minds, and of course there are material reasons for why this is happening. But um, with that being said, it doesn't mean that we're not agents, that we can't choose a different route for ourselves. And I am a living example of that. I am not on these platforms. I'm doing my own thing, and you can too. Um, I'm trying to remember. I don't know. I might do a separate video or a blog post talking about some of the series I've consumed recently, some of the books I've been reading. It may be interesting. I've gotten quite a few new books recently. Um, Now I've been reading quite a bit, uh, so that there may be something there. But at the end of the day, um, if you want to be really countercultural, you're not going to find that online. Um, Normal culture is all online, and it can't be helped. You can't escape the tide the Normans, the Norman invasion, as some might call it, as my friend No Thank You might call it. They invaded in 1066. They invaded in what was the other one? What was the other date that he gave? 1226 or something. And they invaded in 1776. They invaded in 1996, and they invaded in 2016. I think that's what he said. Um, but it's true. The thing about the Normans is they keep invading. And I mean, maybe there will eventually be a mass exodus from them, from the internet, and they'll go back to the real world. And then the internet will become, careless and fun again, and not so crazy and serious with all these, market forces controlling people's minds and behavior. Uh, but I don't think that world is ever going to happen, to be honest, unless we get like a splinter net situation, a nomad net situation or something. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think the best thing we can do is literally just not be on the internet, which is what I've been doing. I see this as a place where I can get access to education resources, supplementary resources, textbooks, flashcard decks, comprehensible input, things like this. It's not a place for anything else. What else would I use this platform for? I mean, um, YouTube has some good educational content too. There's Wikipedia, that I can read in Spanish or in Polish and things like this, and that's cool. But at the end of the day, it's like, why bother? Why bother with all the rest of the internet? It's not worth it. It's no fun. There's no fun to be had. Certainly not anything meaningful to experience. That's what I've learned, at least.